Ladies and gentlemen, today we gather here not merely to understand a word, but to uncover a world of depth, stillness, and conscious evolution. The word yogi is not just a title, not just a practitioner of yoga, but a being who walks the path of inner transformation. So, who is a yogi in a world where people are constantly chasing success, wealth, relationships, and external validation? The yogi chooses a radically different direction. Rather than looking outward for fulfillment, the yogi directs their attention inward. This inward journey is not one of escape or denial, but of deep and courageous exploration. The yogi understands that true contentment cannot be found in material things or fleeting pleasures. Instead, they realize that the source of all peace, clarity, and strength lies within their own consciousness. This shift from the external to the internal marks the beginning of the yogic path, a path not of belief but of direct experience. The process of turning inward is neither easy nor immediate. It requires discipline, sincerity, and a willingness to face one's own mind without filters. The yogi begins by observing the constant chatter of thoughts, the rise and fall of emotions, and the patterns that drive their behavior. With consistent practice, this observation creates a space between the observer and the observed. This space is where transformation happens. Instead of reacting to life from old habits, the yogi starts to respond from awareness. Over time, this self-inquiry leads to profound insights, not just about the self, but about the nature of life itself. One of the core realizations in this inward journey is that peace is not something to be acquired, but something to be uncovered. It is not dependent on circumstances, possessions, or people. It is already present within, obscured only by noise and confusion. The yogi learns to sit with silence, to embrace stillness, and to witness the arising and passing of every mental or emotional movement without clinging or resistance. This capacity to remain centered in the midst of chaos is not a form of numbness. It is a deep stability rooted in awareness. The yogi is no longer shaken by the ups and downs of life, because they have anchored themselves in something deeper than change. By turning inward, the yogi also begins to shed the illusions of identity. They no longer define themselves by their name, status, achievements, or body. They begin to see that all such identities are temporary and superficial. What remains constant is the witness, the silent presence behind all experiences. This witnessing consciousness is the true self of the yogi. It is not limited by birth or death, by gain or loss. In realizing this inner reality, the yogi experiences freedom, not as a philosophy, but as a living truth. The inward turn, then, is not just a mental practice. It is a return to the essence of who we truly are. A common misconception about yogis is that they must follow a certain lifestyle, wear specific clothing, or adhere to ancient rituals to be considered authentic. Many imagine a yogi as someone living in isolation, draped in robes, with long beards or matted hair, removed from the everyday world. However, these external characteristics are not what define a yogi. The true essence of a yogi lies far beyond surface appearances. Whether someone wears saffron robes or business attire, Whether someone wears saffron robes and inner balance amidst the fluctuations of life. Tradition can be a helpful guide on the spiritual path, offering techniques, stories, and frameworks for growth. However, a yogi does not become imprisoned by tradition. Instead, they use it as a means, not as an identity. They know that true transformation doesn't come from outward conformity, but from inward realization. A person can perform rituals for years and still remain trapped in ego, while another who has never heard the word yoga may live in deep awareness and love. The yogi sees that labels, systems, and doctrines can never substitute for genuine inner clarity. They are not attached to cultural expressions of spirituality, but are anchored in the universal experience of truth. What truly sets a yogi apart is their ability to remain centered in every situation. This state of equanimity, mental calmness, and composure is not something that can be mimicked or imposed. It arises from deep inner discipline and awareness. Whether faced with praise or criticism, gain or loss, comfort or discomfort, a yogi maintains a steady mind and an open heart. This does not mean they suppress emotions, but that they are not controlled by them. Their presence is peaceful, not because their lives are without problems, but because their minds are no longer dominated by reactions. Equanimity becomes their natural response. And this is a true mark of spiritual maturity. The yogi's awareness is not selective, it is total. They observe their thoughts, emotions, actions, and surroundings with deep clarity. This awareness brings a quality of aliveness and freedom into everything they do. They don't cling to roles, identities, or possessions, knowing that all such things are transient. Their sense of self is not based on who they appear to be to others, but on the depth of consciousness they experience within. This inner rootedness
Stop sama laba-laba.
these inner realization from one of the most remarkable qualities of a true yogi is their ability to fully participate in the world without becoming entangled in it. This does not mean withdrawing from society or denying the experiences that life offers, but rather engaging with life from a space of non-attachment and clarity. A yogi may have responsibilities, relationships, and roles. However, unlike most people who become consumed by desires, fears, and expectations, the yogi remains a witness to it all. This experience challenges remind me of their importance in life to experience pain and honor. This detachment is not cold or indifferent. It is deeply conscious and compassionate. The yogi understands that all experiences, whether joyful or painful, are part of the natural ebb and flow of existence. They do not resist pain nor cling to pleasure. Instead, they welcome both with equanimity, knowing that both are transient and have something to teach. Where most people are driven by compulsions, seeking pleasure and avoiding discomfort, The yogi acts from a place of balance. Their sense of happiness is not dependent on favorable circumstances, but arises from their inner stillness. This makes their presence powerful and calming, as they are not reacting but responding with awareness. The yogi's relationship with the world is marked by freedom. They are not bound by social pressures, personal attachments, or emotional drama. Their actions are performed with full involvement, but their happiness is not tied to success or failure. This freedom enables them to act wisely, love selflessly. Even in the face of suffering or loss, the yogi remains grounded. They do not pretend pain doesn't exist, but they refuse to let it overwhelm their awareness. They experience it, process it, and let it go, without creating stories or identities around it. Similarly, when pleasure arises, they enjoy it fully, but without the need to prolong it or cling to it. In doing so, they transcend the dualities that dominate most people's lives. The yogi has trained the mind to rest in the present moment, and in that stillness, the storms of pleasure and pain pass without leaving deep scars. This balanced state of being is a result of years of inner work, an unwavering commitment to truth. A yogi is often referred to as a spiritual seeker, but perhaps a more accurate description is that of an inner scientist. Just as a scientist in a laboratory conducts experiments to uncover the laws of nature, a yogi turns their attention inward to explore the subtle layers of consciousness. Their laboratory is the mind, their tools are awareness and discipline, and their subject is the self. They observe thoughts as they arise, study emotions without judgment, and analyze desires and fears with clarity. This inner exploration is not based on belief or superstition, but on direct experience and observation. The yogi does not accept anything blindly. They test every idea against their own inner reality, discarding what is false and holding on to what is true through lived realization. Discipline plays a central role in the life of a yogi, not as a form of suppression, but as a tool for refinement. The mind, by its nature, tends to be restless, distracted, and often governed by unconscious patterns. The yogi uses practices like meditation, breath control, ethical living, and mindful observation, and ultimately mastery. This self-discipline is not about denying life's joys or pleasures, but about developing the capacity to enjoy them without being enslaved by them. Through years of consistent effort, the yogi cultivates a sharp, steady, and silent mind, one that is capable of perceiving the subtlest truths of existence without distortion. Self-sentiousness is the foundation of this inner journey. The yogi learns to remain aware not only during meditation but in every action, word, and thought throughout the day. This continual awareness turns everyday life into a field of exploration. Whether walking, eating, speaking, or resting, the yogi remains a conscious observer. This does not lead to withdrawal or numbness, but to a deeper intimacy with life. With each layer of illusion uncovered, the yogi begins to see the interconnectedness of all things and the impermanence of all forms. Their understanding is not just intellectual but experiential, coming from the clarity that silence and presence bring. As this inner science unfolds, the yogi begins to recognize that consciousness itself is the source of all experience. Thoughts, emotions, sensations, and even the sense of identity are seen as phenomena arising within consciousness, not the ultimate reality. This realization marks a turning point where the yogi no longer identifies with the ever-changing contents of the mind, but rests in the unchanging awareness behind them. This shift does not make them aloof from the world. Instead, it empowers them to live with greater wisdom and compassion. They see themselves not as separate from others, but as a drop in the ocean of universal consciousness. And in that realization, a quiet, profound revolution takes place within. One of the most defining qualities of a true yogi is their exceptional mental clarity. In a world where the mind is constantly clouded by distractions, overthinking, and emotional turbulence, the yogi has developed the rare ability to see things as they truly are. This clarity is not the result of high intelligence or formal education. It is the outcome of deep inner work and consistent self-observation. By patiently watching the movements of the mind, the yogi gradually separates truth from illusion. They begin to recognize which thoughts are rooted in conditioning and which arise from intuition. This discernment allows them to respond to situations with wisdom and not get caught in the chaos of mental noise. Emotional freedom is another natural result of the yogi's inner journey. Unlike most people who are often at the mercy of their emotions, a yogi does not suppress feelings, nor do they become overwhelmed by them. They have cultivated the strength to witness emotions as they arise and pass without becoming entangled. Whether experiencing anger, sadness, joy, or fear, they observe the emotion, acknowledge it fully, and let it go without resistance. This detachment is not a form of coldness, but of mastery. It enables them to engage with others more authentically because they are no longer projecting unresolved emotional baggage onto the world around them. The foundation of the yogi's clarity and freedom lies in their stillness. This stillness is not simply the absence of noise or activity. It is a dynamic presence that remains unshaken regardless of external events. From this inner stillness, the yogi draws their strength and direction. When faced with difficult choices or unexpected challenges, they don't react impulsively out of fear or desire. Instead, they respond from a place of centered awareness. Their actions are not based on habits, societal pressures, or emotional cravings, but arise from a calm and reflective space within. This makes their decisions grounded, precise, and often transformative, not only for themselves, but also for those around them. Acting from stillness also brings a sense of purpose and grace into the yogi's life. They are no longer hurried by the world's expectations or swayed by its ever-changing standards. They operate on a different frequency, one aligned with inner truth rather than outer approval. This way of being allows the yogi to navigate life with deep confidence, not in the egoic sense, but in the quiet certainty that they are in harmony with their own nature. Their mental clarity allows them to cut through confusion, and their emotional freedom ensures they remain untouched by the storms of daily life. In this way, they serve as a beacon of stability and insight in a world often driven by noise, haste, and reaction. At the heart of a yogi's life lies compassion, not as a moral obligation, but as a natural expression of their inner realization. As the yogi deepens their awareness and transcends the boundaries of ego, they begin to perceive life in a more interconnected way. They no longer see themselves as a separate individual competing with others, but as a part of a vast and unified existence. This shift in perception transforms how they relate to other living beings. Compassion arises spontaneously not from sentimental emotions or charity, but from a direct understanding that the suffering of another is not separate from their own. It becomes impossible for a yogi to harm, exploit, or ignore the pain of others because they feel it within themselves. This profound sense of oneness redefines the way a yogi lives and interacts. Whether encountering a fellow human, an animal, or even a plant, they respond with gentleness and respect. They do not judge others for their ignorance, flaws, or mistakes, because they understand that everyone is evolving at their own pace. The yogi sees beyond surface behaviors to the deeper core of being that unites all creatures. This inclusive vision allows them to embrace diversity with humility and patience. Even in the face of cruelty or hostility, a true yogi does not respond with hatred. Instead, they respond with wisdom, seeking to transform situations through awareness and presence, rather than aggression or condemnation. A yogi's compassion extends far beyond personal relationships. It touches every area of their life, from the way they consume resources to the way they speak and act. Every choice is made with awareness of its impact on others. They strive to live in a way that minimizes harm and maximizes harmony. This might mean adopting a non-violent diet, living simply, or dedicating their time to healing and service. Their compassion is not selective or performative. It is woven into the very fabric of how they live. Their presence must be like the presence of an unconditional irony. Moreover, this compassion does not weaken the yogi. It strengthens them. It is not born out of pity or superiority, but out of strength and clarity. The yogi knows that to truly help another being, one must first be free from personal agendas and emotional reactivity. Their compassion is rooted in equanimity, which gives it a steady and enduring quality. They do not burn out from helping others because their giving is not depleting. It flows from an inexhaustible inner source. This balance of softness and strength allows the yogi to offer support without attachment, love without control, and wisdom without pride. In a world often divided by conflict and separation, the yogi becomes a quiet force of unity, healing, and understanding. A yogi is not a supernatural being or someone born with extraordinary powers. They are simply a person who has tapped into the deeper dimensions of what it means to be human. In this sense, the yogi is a living example of the vast and often dormant potential within each of us. They demonstrate that enlightenment, inner peace, clarity, and freedom are not reserved for the few, but are accessible to all who are willing to turn inward and seek earnestly. Their life becomes a testament to the idea that we are not limited by our past, our conditioning, or our external circumstances. Instead, we are limited only by the barriers we have accepted within ourselves. The yogi, by breaking through those limitations, shows others the way to do the same. This potential does not unfold through miracles or shortcuts, but through conscious effort and deep introspection. A yogi's transformation is built on years of self-discipline, unwavering focus, and an insatiable thirst for truth. It's not about achieving something outside the self, but about shedding what is false to reveal what has always been true. They embody the realization that happiness is not something to chase, but something to uncover. Their journey illustrates that the human mind, when properly guided, has the capacity to overcome fear, anger, greed, and confusion. Through their example, the yogi inspires others to believe in the possibility of their own growth, not as a fantasy, but as a real and achievable goal. The beauty of the yogi's path is that it is inclusive. One does not need to belong to a specific religion, culture, or belief system to walk this road. The path of yoga is not about conformity, but authenticity. The yogi proves that anyone, regardless of age, background, or status, can begin the journey towards self-realization. It requires no temple, no rituals, no special identity, only a sincere commitment to explore one's inner world. The yogi may begin as an ordinary person facing the same struggles as anyone else, but through dedication and awareness, they awaken to a completely different way of being. This message is powerful because it reminds us that transformation is not a distant dream. It is a choice available in every moment. In society where people often look outward for inspiration in the form of celebrities, achievements, or material success, the yogi redirects our attention inward. They remind us that the greatest discovery is not in conquering the world, but in understanding the self. Their calm presence, their unwavering mind, and their compassionate actions become proof that another way of living is possible. One not based on reaction, competition, or fear, but on stillness, clarity, and truth. The yogi serves not as a figure to be idolized, but as a mirror, reflecting back to us the dormant greatness within. Their life is an invitation for us to rise beyond limitation and awaken the full potential of human consciousness. In a world that often pulls us in countless directions, the yogi stands as a reminder. Their journey is not one another person. We are uncovering a path that leads to our own highest nature. Their journey is not one of escape, with the self, with truth, and with life, and with Pramcheda. The yogi's life is not just an example. It is an invitation for each of us to awaken, evolve, and realize the boundless potential within.